All right, so a little more information on the Insert Edge Loop tool, the Offset Edge Loop tool, and the MultiCut tool. So first of all, I'll start with how they actually function. So the Insert Edge Loop tool only works on quads, basically. So when you click on an edge, it's going to basically insert an edge loop tool perpendicular to that edge. So how it works, so like if I click on this vertical edge here, it's like, okay, this is the quad that it's attached to. What's the opposite side on that quad? And then it'll just basically connect the two. So like if you're halfway between, it's going to look for the halfway point on this next edge. If you're like a third of the way up, it's going to look for, 33% away from this top bit here. And then you can pretty much just insert edge loops like this. So the downside about the Insert Edge Loop tool, it does not work on tries. You can see like the whole top of this is tries, and I'm trying to insert edge loop tools and I can't. It also doesn't like n-gons. So like I cut out some of the edge loops here, so if I try to insert an edge loop tool, it'll just stop because it doesn't know on an n-gon like what the opposite side is. So like on a quad, it's like, cool, this is the edge I'm working with here. I'm just going to connect to this one because it's the opposite one, right? So like edge, skip this edge, here's my next edge. That's fine. But on this n-gon, it's like, okay, here's my edge, but like now which one is the opposite one? And it just doesn't know what the heck to do with that, or like how to divide itself in the middle of these loops if you want, or if that makes sense. So one way, and I mentioned this in my other video, one way you can compensate for at least the tries, like on the top of cylinder caps, is just extrude the top faces in, and then you'll notice that it will connect around. The Insert Edge Loop tool will basically go around until it hits either tries or an n-gon, or it connects to itself in a loop. So, or it hits the edge of your object. So like if I had a plane here, and I go in and try to insert an edge loop tool, it's like, cool, I've reached the end of the object, I'm done now, right? So like, anytime it hits the end of the object, it's just like, okay, clearly there's nowhere else to go, obviously. But, so that's the Insert Edge Loop tool. Perpendicular, it'll put a loop perpendicular to the edge that you click on, doesn't work with tries, does not work with n-gons, and will pretty much just keep going until it hits a try or an n-gon or the edge of the model, or it connects back onto itself. The Offset Edge Loop tool works a little bit differently. So instead of putting a loop perpendicular to the edge you click on, it'll put two loops parallel on either side of the edge that you click on. So in this case, and like sometimes it'll do kind of weird stuff where like up here it's like, cool, I've basically turned this area into quads. But you'll notice, so like when I click on this loop, it'll try to put two edges onto this circle. If I undo this, and this one will actually work on tries. So like you'll notice like here it's putting a loop pretty much on either side of this. So if I dump that off, and it's like, cool, now my edge is hardened. So that's super handy if you're just like looking to go through and like harden off the edges of your cylinders. If you click on an edge that's just a try, it'll still, for the most part, try to attach edge loops to the end of it. But it also ignores n-gons, which is kind of weird. But yeah, so that's the Offset Edge Loop tool. It's really helpful if you need stuff that's equidistant from each other. And then there's one more tool, which I advise caution when using, but is super handy if you're paying attention to what you're doing when you're using it, and that is the MultiCut tool. So if I go to Mesh Tools, MultiCut, I just use Control-Shift-X because I'm lazy. This one will actually let you draw geometry directly onto your object. The downside of this is that it doesn't care at all if you make n-gons. So like you'll notice this created a buttload of a lot of n-gons. But you can, it is really nice, like if you accidentally delete some edges, you can just go back and draw them in. It'll basically draw across your model. If you like click from one point and go to the other, it'll kind of just put a straight line depending on whatever your camera angle is. which like definitely has its uses. The other thing that you can do with MultiCut tool, which is pretty cool, go into my orthographic mode. If I, where's my actual object? Hang on. Oh. Buttons. All right, cool. So MultiCut tool, if you click outside, if you click outside of your mesh, and then just drag across, it will just hack straight lines through your model, which is sometimes nice. Again, this does not care if it makes n-gons, so like there's probably like, here's an n-gon, here's an n-gon, like these are pretty much all n-gons now. So take care when you're doing this, like pay attention to what you're doing. But if you were so inclined, you could use the MultiCut tool to be like, cool, that edge is hardened, that edge is hardened. Like, if you're paying attention to what you're doing, you can totally avoid n-gons. But just be aware that this tool will shamelessly add n-gons and tries and weird geometry into your scene. So again, use it with care.